Hooray! Gravel by California here, getting all landmarky, giving you a guide to riding up to the Hollywood sign. Now, biking is clearly the best way of getting up here if you plan on getting the Gram. But there are also a couple gravel options to find your way up that are really helpful in avoiding the steeper pitches and navigating all these windy streets. So let's get on with the show and reach for the stars. And more bad Hollywood cliches. The Hollywoodland sign was built in 1923, intended to be just temporary to promote the development below. With the rise of movies, it just hung around there, becoming dilapidated until the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce repaired the sign but dropped land from its name. They didn't do the greatest of jobs, so in 1978, Hugh Hefner led a fundraising effort which included Gene Autry and Alice Cooper for new letters that were shorter but wider. Getting to the sign is difficult enough navigating streets that looks like brain wrinkles on a map. But locals have tried keeping visitors away by parking restrictions and going so far to have Google's directions send cyclists to Griffith Observatory instead of the sign. There are a few different ways of reaching the sign, but my favorite is easy to navigate. Starting out near Hollywood and Vine, where there's a metro station and a lot of visual candy. My favorite route goes up past the hidden from below Hollywood Reservoir, then up to the sign, covering 4.8 miles, averaging 5%. From Franklin, you wiggle your way up, turning onto Ivar, then a street called Dix with an X, before making a right onto Holly. It's a flat start with the 101 interrupting these century-old bungalows through the neighborhood of Hollywood Dell. As the hills close in, the homes go upward, and I'm not just talking in price. It's easy to remember to make a right onto Deep Dell as Holly dead ends. But straight ahead, few notice this wooded area behind this power station. More on this later. On this street, you can play Guess That Architectural Style. But from here, just stay to the left or follow the signs to the reservoir. If you don't get sucked in by one of these oversized party houses, you'll soon make it up to the southern entrance of the Hollywood Reservoir, where your first piece of dirt is just off to your right. Before going off-road, it's worth going across the dam to check out these unique views and its unique history. So 1 year after the sign was built, the reservoir was completed in 1924, designed by William Mulholland. Around the same time, he had just completed the St. Francis Dam out past Santa Clarita. But in 1928, the dam collapsed, killing 431 people. People here were very concerned because the dam had a very similar design. So they agreed years later to cut down the water levels, reinforce the structure, and put a bunch of trees and earth in front so people down in Hollywood wouldn't have to see a potential disaster. It's not too hard to spot the tortoises swimming below or the water fountain coming in. But this 1 mile of section of trail awaits. The climb never gets painstakingly steep and even doable on a road bike, as it starts out fairly wide. As you start to look over the reservoir, the path narrows, which is odd looking back at maps listing this trail as Mulholland Highway, as finding pavement along the way makes you debate whether cars could actually fit here before or if it was bulldozed over. Near the end, you come across Castillo del Lago, which was once occupied by Bugsy Siegel, although a lot of people refer to it as the Madonna House, even though she lived here for just 4 years in the 90s. The road ends in a Roubaix-styled fashion as it shoots you out at the top of Lake Hollywood Park, which is your best option to take a pic of the sign if you don't plan to stray far from your car. Continuing east up the questionably gated Mulholland Highway, the road splits into upper and lower sections as just another quirk you find in these hills. As Mulholland rejoins, this highway continues on your left, which is accessible for hikers and cyclists. It's a short, windy road, and it's as close as you're going to get underneath the sign. But don't even think about hiking up to it, as you'll likely end up on the wrong end of the law. This is a brief section of dirt that's navigable by any size tire, leading you to what looks like a closure with the entrance to Mount Lee Drive to your left. For those accessing the sign by coming up the steeper climb on Deronda, there's normally a gated door that's being repaired, but has been previously unlocked for visitors. The start is pretty flat, and the biggest challenge is the unkept road. Another thing you see nearby is Mount Hollywood, which some people confuse as the location of the sign, as the peak the sign sits on is named Mount Lee as part of a larger recreation area. So the Hollywood sign is part of Griffith Park, and if you look at a map, you'll find dozens of miles of fire roads, which are actually closed to bikes, including this one here, which connects to Mount Hollywood Drive. Now, have I ever ridden this before? Yes. One day I was coming up here and the gas company told me I had to go this way. I explained that I couldn't. Got into a Looney Tunes type argument where I finally said, fine, I'm going that way and I'm not gonna like it. Hopefully you'll be so lucky. Right past this junction, you hit your toughest effort of the day, with a climb averaging 10% over more than a kilometer. The hardest section is right at the beginning, as even with these bendy curves, it punches you around 15%. As the climb eases up, you're now placed on the north side of the mountain, with views of the San Fernando Valley, but if you're looking for more dirt, the Verdugos are a great option nearby, as seen in our Send It Sunday group ride. Always keep an eye out for the occasional vehicle passing by, as the wooden barriers don't seem to provide much protection. you should receive some sunlight after the last switchback. And while the pitch kicks up this last little bit, you do feel lighter reaching the top. It's obviously a great view at the peak, with lots to see in all directions. Just be careful on the ride down, as it's easy to pick up high speeds around the cadre of hikers. So as you can see, the Hollywood sign is a great little ride, not too long, but there's a ton of other great options around that you could add on. But still, forgot my phone. Anyways, please subscribe to Gravel Bike California. We'll be having more videos, and support us on Patreon, where we bring you more from the state of dirt.